morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million online rendezvous. We are broadcasting live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. This is Sramana Mitra, founder of 1 million by 1 million. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for startups. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue, build $1 trillion in global GDP and 10 million jobs. And we do that to a large extent through education and trying to understand the myths and nuances of entrepreneurship. And in that process, one of the conclusions we have arrived at is that over 99% of the entrepreneurs who seek financing get rejected by venture capitalists. So the lesson number one that we have arrived at is VC rejection does not mean that you cannot be successful as an entrepreneur. A lot of people have built businesses by bootstrapping without taking external financing, mainly focusing on customers. So as long as customers are willing to pay for what you have to offer, you have a shot at building a successful business. VC or not is a separate question. So our philosophy in 1 million by 1 million is entrepreneurship equals customers, revenues, and profits. Financing is optional, exit is optional. So with that introduction, what we do in these sessions is essentially answer questions. We get questions from all different touch points. We get questions from here as well every week. So in fact, today what I'm going to do is answer a couple of questions I got last week, and then I'll go on to questions that I picked up from other touch points, all the way from these social media platforms, Quora, our online roundtables. We have weekly online roundtables that many of you are familiar with, and so on and so forth. So let's go to the first question, and that is from last week's Q&A here. The question was, if there are so many problems with capitalism, do you still believe in it? To answer that question, I'm going to take you back to an article that I wrote for Forbes back in late 2008 or early 2009. It was at the height of the financial crisis. And this article was on the cover of Forbes.com, on the homepage of Forbes.com for a month. And it was called Capitalism's Fundamental Flaw. So I'm going to refer back to that and share with you what I said in that. Growing up in pre-liberalization India, I embraced Ayn Rand as the one who best articulated a philosophy that rang true to my naturally entrepreneurial mind. Capitalism, meritocracy, individualism, self-correcting market economics, innovation, excellence, integrity, fairness, work ethic, justice, many of the values that I worship are also those that Rand celebrates in her fiction through her unforgettable characters. Of course, I was 16 when I first read Ayn Rand. I can't say that I agree with everything she says at this point of my life, but at that point, I was growing up in a part of India that was communist, and I absolutely do not believe in communism. So what Ayn Rand was writing provided a very good counterpoint to what was going on around me, and it gave me a point of view that was more in sync with who I am and what my belief system is. But as I have developed a deeper understanding of how capitalism works today, I am beginning to see the flaws that are unlikely to correct themselves. So this notion of self-correction is not entirely built into capitalism. To be fair, most flaws will self-correct. For example, in the venture capital industry, we have seen a decade-long scam of taking limited partners for a ride, raising huge funds, extracting large management fees to the tune of millions annually, and then returning negative on the investment. This for sure has already started self-correcting. According to the National Venture Capital Association, the number of funds declined to 1,366 in 2008, down from 1,883 in 2001. Of course, since then, a lot of new funds have come about. I think there are probably 700-800 micro VCs that have started, but these are new funds. The funds that were not performing, many of them have had to shut down because they couldn't raise follow-on rounds of financing. So the industry has shifted gears. So there is correction in action there. That is pure capitalism at work. Investors and limited partners come to realize that funds are not performing, and they pull the plug on those general partners who are supposed to be managing those funds and returning on those investments. Non-performing funds die. Those that do well survive. New funds crop up, and the industry as a whole gets right-sized. Some looters get away with their riches, but mostly their careers are over. Also, in that 2008 financial crisis, we've seen the government intervene on a massive scale, including putting billions into dead or dying companies. However, even that has kind of found its way to a stable path. The banks are a whole other matter. The banks were bailed out big time, government intervened big time. But there is a lot of the problems of the banking system are not entirely corrected yet. Integrity, justice, fairness, a lot of those values have come into question in that process. But that's all, in the works. And I was just this morning, I was reading New York Times Deal Book, which has an article on Michael Bloomberg's proposal on how to regulate banks. And Michael Bloomberg is one of the very few people in politics who actually does understand finance. So I take what he has to say a lot more seriously than anybody else. So I do believe that if Michael Bloomberg does win the American presidency, he will know how to deal with the banks. So again, capitalism is not outside of the political system. Economics is not outside of the political system. So a lot of the policy setting, a lot of the legislation comes through the political system. We have no choice but to wait for that correction cycle, which is a slow correction cycle, to come together. But there is one less obvious bug in capitalism that I don't believe regulation can quite handle. It is the fundamental flaw that our celebrated system rewards speculators much more than creators. A relatively junior hedge fund manager or a bond trader on Wall Street makes a great deal more money in his career than Charles Cow, who invented the basic physics making optical communication a reality. Dr. Cow won the Nobel Prize, I think in 2008 or 9, but his net worth would not compare favorably with that of George Soros, a fund manager. So who has added the real value, Soros or Cow? This is a question that is a very pertinent question in the context of capitalism. Who reaps the benefits of capitalism? In 2009, 30 million people were sitting unemployed in America. That has improved greatly, thankfully, in the last 10 years. American economy has recovered very well. Right now, we're sitting in one of the lowest unemployment situations in the country. But in that, alongside that, there are other things that are going on. The stock market is going gangbusters. The speculators have managed to lift the stock market up. if you look at other economics parameters like real wages, there are issues. So, so in general, the flaw of capitalism that I'm pointing to is the compensation disbalance between speculators and value creators. We need the innovators, the entrepreneurs, the creators, the scientists, the technologists, the educators, those who build value, those who create jobs to lead us to a different, more fair system. But the flaw in capitalism is that a bunch of speculators who make money regardless of whether value is getting created or destroyed, these are the short sellers who also make money when value is getting destroyed. Everybody, the speculators, are making a huge amount of money. In fact, many of them are incentivized to destroy value by spreading fake rumors about companies and stocks, and they do so often. Some get caught, some don't. The SEC has regulations. It doesn't always get, doesn't surface to visibility. And our talented youth get seduced by this profession of speculation known for its easy and abundantly flowing financial rewards, avoiding those that require much greater intellectual capacity. Most importantly, very early in their lives, our talented youth come to realize that fields that may earn them a Nobel Prize, cancer research or multi-core computing, may not make them rich. But moving money from here to there will. And thus, we lose Berkeley PhDs in nuclear physics to hedge funds and MIT computer scientists capable of delivering computing to 6 billion people to derivative manipulation on Wall Street. So what I wrote in that Forbes article was, Ayn Rand, somewhere down the road, you lost me. I don't see how free market capitalism fixes this systemic flaw, and I'm deeply disturbed. So I will do a second question in a moment. Let me just get a sip of coffee. So in response to this observation, of course, I did not sit idle in 2008 as the financial crisis was raging. In the next couple of years, we did tremendous amount of experimentation. And one of the experiments was our free mentoring roundtables that started in the fall of 2008. And by the end of 2009, we had enough data that people were interested in mentoring startups, entrepreneurs were interested in receiving mentoring from all over the world. So in 2010, January 1st, 2010, I wrote a New Year resolution that I was going to do 1 million by 1 million. And the mission, as I said, was going to be to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. So the next question I will answer is, what is a reasonable framework for capitalism 2.0? Because the underpinning of 1 million by 1 million is that philosophy of capitalism 2.0. So this is my experiments, efforts to restructure capitalism. Is capitalism still the right answer for the future of our world? As I said, one of the fundamental flaws of capitalism that has collapsed the system is unbridled speculation. If you believe that capital is at the heart of capitalism, then speculators are at the heart of capitalism as well. As it happens, the speculators have hijacked the system. In the process, capitalism has degenerated into an unjust, unpalatable mess, with speculators enjoying the lavish benefits of privatized profits and socialized losses, while jeopardizing society at large with irresponsible risk-taking. This is still going on. These speculators add little value. They move money from here to there, continue to garner multi-million dollar bonuses, unperturbed at the coming Armageddon, and are financed by government handouts. It is no wonder that Wall Street is facing the wrath of people. This is one good thing that has happened since the financial crisis of 2008. Wall Street has lost some of the prestige that it had when I was coming out of grad school. Wall Street had big lure. Today, I would say that has changed, and that's a good thing. But for some of us, this was the system we believed in. The capitalism system is what we believed in as the guiding principle of our lives. And by us, I mean entrepreneurs, the other constituency in the capitalistic pyramid, the one that actually creates value and reaps its rewards. This is the group that holds Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Reed Hastings, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, and Mark Zuckerberg, among others, as its role models. The group the speculators ride on, the group the people are not angry with, as shown by the outpouring of affection for Steve Jobs following his recent death. I would say the one that is perhaps an exception right now is Mark Zuckerberg, a bit because of its Facebook's role in, creating a mess with American democracy and the election of Trump with Russian intervention and so on and so forth. But still, there are also very good sides of Facebook, and definitely, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Netflix, Google, these are considered as very, very positive innovations in society. So my conclusion, as I shared with you earlier, is that capitalism needs to be re-engineered. In effect, the entrepreneurs need to hijack the system back from the speculators and marginalize their ability to create destruction. So how do we do it? What is a reasonable framework for Capitalism 2.0? For me, the most logical next step would be to democratize capitalism in the same way that Henry Ford democratized the personal automobile and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates democratized personal computing. But we need to focus on democratizing entrepreneurship, not speculation. Speculation has already been democratized to disastrous ends, as we saw in the dot-com crash at the beginning of the millennium. Retail investors investing in complex technologies without understanding what the hell they were all about created absolute havoc with finance, with personal finance, consumer finance. Another problem is that entrepreneurship remains the province of the elite. There's tremendously high infant entrepreneur mortality owing to a lack of education, guidance, and resources. Every year, 600,000 companies go out of business in America. Again and again, entrepreneurs make the same avoidable errors and end up in the debt pool. One of these fundamental errors is chasing capital straight out of the gate. The media, business schools, and of course the capitalists themselves have fostered a myth that entrepreneurship equals financing. This is why each young entrepreneur chases investors before doing any business validation. In consequence, more than 99% of the entrepreneurs looking for financing are rejected. Some because they are too early and unprepared, and some because their markets are too small or the pace of growth is too slow. Nonetheless, the entire entrepreneurship ecosystem and its resources are focused on the 1% that is fundable. Incubators take pride in how exclusive they are and how many entrepreneurs they reject. Star angel investors like Mike Maples in Silicon Valley get more than 7,000 deals a year and invest in 10 to 12 at most. In the process, these naive entrepreneurs ignore the constituency of greatest significance, their customers. They fail to understand that customer money equals revenue, something that helps them become self-sustaining rather than dependent on entrepreneurs, on investors. The prevailing ecosystem fails to appreciate that entrepreneurship equals customers plus revenues plus profits financing is optional. In the next stage of capitalism's evolution, we need to dispel this myth. We need to educate millions of entrepreneurs on how to become successful and understand what are the dynamics of capital, what is fundable and what is not. We need to help them understand that rejection from a venture capitalist does not equate to failure, and that there are other ways of building successful, viable, self-sustaining businesses. We need to reestablish that the fundamental commercial transaction in capitalism should be between the producer of value, the entrepreneur, and the consumer of value, the customer. We need to democratize entrepreneurship education and incubation in an inclusive manner so that much larger masses of entrepreneurs around the world can tap into the most powerful force of capitalism, how to create value and be compensated for it by customers. Regardless of how large the opportunity that faces them, entrepreneurs need to be taught how to build profitable businesses. There are many more 5 million, 10 million, 25 million ideas out there than there are 10 billion ideas. The latter is the domain of venture capital, but the former is still very much in the domain of capitalism and entrepreneurship. If we can teach millions of entrepreneurs to build sustainable businesses, the Western world's current struggle with unemployment can be tackled, just as the emerging markets' efforts at development can also be tackled. With this premise in mind, I started the 1 Million by 1 Million initiative, a virtual accelerator whose goal is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million in annual revenue and beyond, create $1 trillion of global GDP, and create at least 10 million jobs. At scale, we believe this will establish the framework of Capitalism 2.0. And here we go. This is the solution, I think. A distributed, democratic capitalism around the world. Global, distributed, democratic capitalism. That is my idea of Capitalism 2.0. This would solve the problem of rampant speculation in a simple, elegant fashion. Most of these companies will never go public or be acquired. They will continue to exist as small cash-generating businesses supporting small but stable workforces in diverse and distributed communities far from the reach of the speculators. This, coupled with policy changes, including regulation to check speculators from taking undue risks, as well as tax policies that favor entrepreneurs and penalize excessive speculation, would help to marginalize the dark forces clouding capitalism. It would sharpen our focus on value creation and entrepreneurship, and I believe usher in an era of prosperity and stability throughout the world. So, in conclusion, we tackled, in the first part of the session today, we have tackled mostly questions about what are the problems with capitalism and what is the solution. I still believe deeply in capitalism as the best economic model. I don't think there's a better one. But I think we need to restructure capitalism to be distributed, to be global, to be democratic, to be not so accessible by the speculators. Okay, those were my two bigger topics for discussion today. We have a little bit of time, so I'm going to start answering some questions from Quora. The first question is, what are some cases where founders preserved equity ruthlessly? Well, the first point that I want to make for you is ownership matters. you have to pay attention to preserving equity, because otherwise later on your cap table is going to go off kilter. Mark Zuckerberg retained 26% equity in Facebook. Zuckerberg's net worth, I don't know what his net worth is right now. Actually, I haven't looked at it, but it was over 50 billion already by January 2017. And that is a point where he had 26% equity in Facebook. That's when I did this analysis. So how did he retain 26% in Facebook after so many rounds of financing? Facebook was started with friends and family money in February 2004. By September 2004, it had ad revenues. Peter Thiel invested the first outside money of $500K for 10% of Facebook. Many startups get $25K for 10% equity. That is a bad deal. $500K for 10% is a good deal. That kept the cap table healthy. Facebook remained attractive for follow-on rounds of financing. Let's look at all the Facebook rounds of financing. In September 2004, 500,000 seed, valuation $5 million. May 2005, 12.7 million Series A, valuation 100 million. So between Series A and seed and Series A, the valuation goes from 5 million to 100 million. Revenue run rate at this point is $6 million. That's why it's getting this kind of valuation, because hypergrowth has been established, hypervirality, hyperviral growth has been established. In May 2006, Facebook raises $27.5 million in Series B, valuation $525 million. Everyone was talking about Facebook. Zuckerberg was hailed as the next Bill Gates. Zuckerberg wielded a lot of negotiating power in each round. Facebook was a rocket. VCs were begging to get in. Zuckerberg did not get carried away. In October 2007, Facebook raises $240 million of Series C. Valuation $15 billion. The revenue run rate is $150 million. Yahoo wanted to buy Facebook for $1 billion in July 2006. Investors wanted to sell. Zuckerberg did not want to sell. Zuckerberg won because he had ownership control. 2 lessons from Zuckerberg. Don't raise too much money too soon. Focus on revenues to keep valuations high and minimize dilution. Ownership matters. And if you're going to use an accelerator, do not use an accelerator that takes up so much equity for so little money that your cap table becomes problematic. In 1 million by 1 million, we do not take equity. We will teach you everything that you need to learn, but you don't have to part with expensive equity early on. You can save your equity so that when you do go out to raise money, you still have that equity in hand to negotiate with. Too much early funding destroys cap tables. And if you destroy the cap table, that's a disaster for future funding. Okay? So I hope that was helpful, actually. This is one of my favorite pieces of analysis that I love to drill into the heads of entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs who are dying to raise financing right out of the gate. The next question I'm going to tackle is also a Quora question. What are some good AI startup ideas? So I'll just give you a guideline. I would advise you to focus on vertical, domain-specific AI-enabled solutions as opposed to broad horizontal platforms. This could be in any domain which you have solid insights into, from financial services to insurance to healthcare to automotive to logistics to retail. It doesn't matter. You can focus on any domain, but find a problem that gains serious value from the application of AI, and ensure that you have a strategy to get to the data upon which you would apply your AI algorithms. We do a Thought Leaders in Artificial Intelligence series on our blog. At the end of every interview, I ask people, my interviewee, what are the open problems in their segment? You can look for ideas in there. So read the Thought Leaders in AI series, and you will find ideas there. You'll find pointers from people with good, interesting vantage points. Our big data and IoT Thought Leadership series also have the same format. At the end of the interviews, there are questions that I ask these interviewees who, tend to answer these questions and provide pointers to good opportunities. So we are kind of out of time. I tried to finish this session around now. So I will go to the last question, which is people asking me, how can I get feedback from you on my venture? So you want feedback from me. I am one of the most accessible people in the industry. I would be very happy to look at your business and give you feedback. We have a very structured format for this. Go to the free public roundtables tab of our website, 1mby1m.com. 1m offers free online mentoring roundtables for entrepreneurs looking to discuss positioning, financing, and all other aspects of building a startup venture. Up to 5 entrepreneurs who registered to pitch will be able to present their businesses. They will gain straightforward feedback, advice on next steps, and answers to questions from me, as well as possibly my frequent guests who are CEOs and VCs, experienced entrepreneurs or investors. You need to register to attend, to listen, learn, and join in the conversation via live chat. All who register will receive the recording by email the next day. All the recordings are on our YouTube channel, by the way. You can also listen to those recordings offline. The next 1M by 1M free roundtable is on Thursday, February 20th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. You can go to the free public roundtable page and register to pitch or to attend. And the one after that is February 27th. So pretty much right now, between now and mid-May, every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time, we have these roundtables, and you have registration links available on our website. So find a slot that works for you and come talk to me. I will go through your project with you and give you very clear feedback. One thing you must be aware of, though, is that I will give you feedback that I believe you need to hear. So don't come to me expecting that I'll give you a pat on your back and say what you want to hear. I will not. My job is to give you something constructive, critique, and most importantly, suggestions on how you can put your one foot before the other. Now, those who register to pitch at one of our roundtables will receive instructions on the preparation required, including a roundtable slides pitch template. We also recommend using the 1M by 1M self-assessment tool. This is available for free on our website as well. This is a set of questions that investors would ask you, and you should ask yourselves these questions about your business. One of the things we see is many entrepreneurs interested in pitching have first expanded their knowledge of the essential components of building a startup by joining our monthly 1M by 1M basic program and going through the 1M by 1M curriculum. And if you use the self-assessment and 1M by 1M basic together, you will actually make a lot of progress in figuring out some of these things on your own. So by pitching to me or coming and discussing your business with me after learning the curriculum and trying to answer some of these questions, you get a lot more takeaway value from your interaction with me. You get only one free session, so use that well. Of course, if you join the premium program, which is our full acceleration program, you can come talk to me every week. No problem. Just go to the website, sign up for premium. You can join our private roundtables every week, and I will be available for you to talk to me every week. Please note, we work exclusively with IT and IT-enabled services businesses. In the comment area, every time I see lots of, clean tech, biotech, etc., this is not our domain of expertise. Infrastructure is not our domain of expertise. Non-profits are not our domain of expertise. We only do for-profit IT and IT-enabled services businesses. And so be aware of that. The other thing that you should be aware of is that the roundtables, the free roundtables, are public forums. Recordings are published publicly and shared online. So you will get media exposure through this, but it is not a private forum. And please don't come with the misconception that you're having a private conversation. If you want to have a private conversation, we have members only private roundtables as part of the premium program, but that is a paid program, that is not a free program. So I hope I've, level set on all the, complications and confusions of this process of how to engage with me. But in a nutshell, I'm very accessible, very available. So please take advantage of that accessibility, that availability, and come talk to me. And I will stick around. We're going to adjourn the session soon, but I will stick around and answer questions that you have put in comments. So feel free to ask your questions and comment, and I will come in dialogue with you shortly. Thank you for coming today. I hope you enjoyed the session, and we will meet you back again next week.